joining our team. My name is Tandi Perkins. I'm the Director of Development for the conference, and Monday will be my 3-year mark. So you have the longest and one of the shortest here in the conference. Let's see. For many of you know that my primary task here in the conference is to raise awareness and funding for Arctic Mission. Often I'm asked, though, why I don't equally support other ministries or departments in their fundraising efforts. And Brenda, that's a fairly good question, wouldn't you think?
I think so. Yeah.
But by the time I was hired in 2018, Arctic Mission was financially strapped. We had had discussions of how potentially we would have to cut back on what we were doing in the Arctic and in the bush, and with the discussion of actually doing away with Arctic Mission as a whole. But Brenda, God steps in where we can't, and the Alaska Executive Committee and Kevin decided to make Arctic Mission Adventure a priority and to hire a fundraiser. And I'm just so blessed because God tapped me for that position. So you might ask yourself, why is AMA a priority? Well, AMA is 100% donor supported. We are self-supporting. We are not a line item on the conference budget. We do not receive any funding from the NPUC or the NAD or the GC, much like something like maybe ADRA or
Adventist
Community Services. Yeah. So we are fully dependent on individuals and churches and other entities in giving us what we need to sustain ourselves. And that dollar amount is $400,000. That's sort of the benchmark for us to be able to be sustainable. And that's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
when you're having to fundraise for it. $300,000 of that is for operations. And that's a large chunk of it because it's expensive, as many of you know, to do business in the bush. And those items covered by operations include electricity for the parsonages, upkeep for those, our AMA worker resource benefits, that kind of thing. And the remaining $100,000 is for our outreach or our programmatic ministries, and those include day camps, vacation Bible schools, and the like. It's unfortunate that the programmatic piece of it is a smaller proportion than our operations, but we're still growing into being sustainable, and so we really have to make sure that we can stay in the bush, doing business in the bush, and that does require a lot. Hopefully, as time goes on, as we continue to meet our benchmarks, then we can expand into us allocating more of those funds going to programs. So the question you may have today is, what role does the church and the school have in Arctic Mission Adventure? Well, I can tell you that we did raise our fundraising goal. So $400,000, praise God, a little over $400,000 was raised last year, 2020. And it's all God. I mean, and it's Him tapping each one of us to do His work and do what it takes to actually make AMA successful. And I want to share a statistic with you that absolutely blew my mind. So we're in the process of putting together our first annual report for AMA. And in delving out the dollars that came out from different entities, I was looking at churches and how much of our fundraising came from Adventist church remittance. And what do you think it was? I'm putting 40? You on the spot.
Yeah, well, I know. It was good.
52% of the $400,000 that we raised came from church remittance. Now, that blew my mind. That's huge. And I just want to say thank you to the churches, the pastors, for really putting AMA out there and really making it a priority. And that does not include non-monetary support, which would be things like Adopt a Village. It doesn't include things like food and clothing drives, and it doesn't include having some of our churches go out on site in the village. I mean, and that in and of itself is huge, because that non-monetary portion provides a huge deficit in terms of the needs of our communities. So thank you so much for that. And before we move on any much further, I want to say just a few words about our Adopt a Village program. Thank you to the churches that have adopted a village. It means so much, not just the financial support, but you have given support to our AMA workers in terms of prayer, in terms of, again, the sending notes, calling them. And during this time of COVID, that is, our folks out in the village are really having a hard time. I mean, they're not only geographically isolated, but they're isolated within their small community then.
Well, and Cam Walter yesterday talked to the pastors and teachers about that, about some of the stressors, especially, I mean, in the field of ministry that we have chosen, that's stressful in and of itself. Mm-hmm. And then you add geographic isolation, Absolutely. You add COVID, it's a perfect storm. So yes, your notes and your care packages for AMA workers is very much appreciated.
Right. So again, thank you for that AMA support. I will also say that we are the 2021 needs for our villages, and we will be putting that booklet out there for everyone. And if you are interested as a pastor and a school, we'll talk about that in a little bit, in participating with the Adopt a Village program, just shoot me an email, Tandi, alaskaconference.com, and we can talk more about that. So Brenda, we have a non-functioning advancer. Okay, there we go. Thank you. So, Brenda, as Director of Communications, we have our donors giving. They are, buying into support for Arctic Mission Adventure. What avenues do we use to communicate back out what we're doing? So, tell me a little bit about that. It's not just for AMA. What vehicles of communication do we use to show folks what's going on?
I will share that with you. I just want to circle back just a little bit to that statistic that she shared. 52% of the churches, those were Alaska churches, and that was the key statistic that kind of came out to me. I thought, okay, that's aggregate, right? But no, that's Alaska. So
right. Good point.
Go Alaska. So anyway, we have a variety of mediums that we use to reach out to our constituents. The conference has made communications a priority. And so you'll see here the Alieskin, we've redesigned that. I'm very excited about it. It's about time, but would love your feedback. And now if we're going to do tweaks, it's the time to do it now. The other things that we have is our e-newsletter around the conference, and we've been doing that for about a year. Our subscribership is almost to 1,300, and about a third of those are from out of Alaska.
And that's huge.
So great way to share your ministry and news information. Send that on to me. I'd be happy to promote that. We have our traditional websites there. You'll see Arctic Missions and its new redesigned sites. And you can go on and meet our Bible workers and see their needs and how we're reaching out to Bush, Alaska. And of course, the conference website, where in December, we got over 100 hits. We've had over 4,500 visits to our website. So it is effective. And then, of course, our traditional avenues like the Gleaner, bulletin inserts. Oh, but our newest addition is our Seize the Day YouTube channel. And I have to give a shout out to the pastor, Zach Babb, who without him, we would not have it because I have no idea how to do it. I can only post. So a lot of things are happening in communications, and we're really excited about that.
What is Seize the Day?
Oh, Seize the Day is our theme for this constituency. It emphasizes discipleship, Arctic missions, and youth and young adults, which are our three key ministries that we're going to be focusing on.
So we'll be hearing a lot more.
We'll be hearing a lot about Seize the Day. But I want to just talk about our YouTube channel and our real push here at the conference to do more video content. We're building an in-house studio so that we can reach out. Well, maybe not me per se, but the leaders can reach out to you on a regular basis.
You don't like this?
No, I don't really enjoy this at all, but I know you guys, so we're good. Now I'm all messed up. No, anyway. We're going to be trying to develop more content for you. We found at camp meeting that was really an effective way for us to reach our audiences. On some of our evening sessions, we've had over 1,500 people, and that was during the week of camp meeting. I haven't checked those statistics recently, but I'm sure it's well above that. So we're really knowing that video has really been effective. And so if you would like to get notifications on when we put up new content, make sure you subscribe to YouTube, go and like and subscribe to our Facebook, get our numbers up there. So anyway, yeah, those are the ways that we're trying to bridge that gap in communication.
Nice. So we would like to take this short opportunity to query the pastors and the school administrators. How are we doing with communication? Not only just with AMA, but with whatever is going out there. Are these the proper channels for you? Are there other channels that might be more useful? Because it's all about disseminating the information around the conference, because as Brenda mentioned, this is huge. We have people that are outside of Alaska that are tuning in to what's going on. And these are people that for schools could potentially be students if they're deciding to move up here, can come here for visits and be potential visitors to churches. So we'd like to hear from you. Type in your comments on the chat, and let us know, because this is something that we need to incorporate. And the other question is for schools. We have really tried to integrate schools into the Adoptive Village program, and we just haven't made any traction. So we'd like to hear from schools to see what your thoughts are and how you might be able to participate or even partner with your church to adopt a village and to send notes to the not only the AMA workers, but maybe some of the students out there. That'd be so cool to do. And then finally, pastors, because we had such a large proportion of our donations coming in from the church, remittance is done in an anonymous way. And part of what I like to do is to personally thank folks that give. And so I would love to hear from you what mechanisms you feel would be useful, would be beneficial to thank these folks. Is it a message in the bulletin, or is it maybe a video? So please feel free again to either drop this in the chat box, or to email me those, because I don't think we can open it up for questions, can we?
I think they can chat. We can do it that way.
Do you want to chat?
Or comments?
Or comments?
So we have some comments saying that the email is appreciated, and also the YouTube and Facebook and the new AMA website.
Oh, great. Very good. Thank you. Well, again, if you happen to spend some time thinking about this some more, and you've got something that you'd like to add, feel free to drop Brenda and I an email, give us a call, whatever works for you. Let's go ahead and, thank you. So what are the ways that schools and churches can help? We're going to go back to AMA now. We're sort of tag teaming. Why are we tag teaming, Brenda? We didn't really set that up.
No, we didn't tag team. We just decided that we work better together. And communications helps all ministries. So we just thought we would use AMA as an example. But communication support.
Do this
I know, right?
Okay, I don't know how that came to be, other than working too closely together
So
for too
hence,
long.
hence the black coat.
Okay, so let's go back to AMA. I'd like to, how can you help? First of all, if you could continue to spread the word. You guys have done such an amazing job at keeping AMA, like I said, in the forefront. And the ways that we have 3 of our biggest financial inputs throughout the year that come first at our union offering. So the union has kindly set up one offering a year that will go specifically for AMA. This year, it's going to be May 29th. And so if you could, leading up to that May 2020, did I say 20? Yeah, May 29th date, we're going to be sending out bulletin announcements and videos. If you could continue to support AMA by showing those videos, by directing folks to that union offering. It's our second largest fundraising input of the year, and that would be really helpful. The second largest fundraising input, or the third largest fundraising input, is camp meeting. Now, we haven't been able to meet together for camp meeting, which most of the offerings have come in for camp meeting, during camp meeting, that go to AMA. And because we haven't been able to meet, we've kind of had a reduction in the amount of offerings that we've gotten during that time period. So again, if you could help us to keep that in the forefront, all the offerings for this year's camp meeting will be going for AMA, and just again, spreading that word. And finally, our largest financial input comes at the end of the year. We usually get the majority of our funds the last 2 days of the year. And so once again, if there's an opportunity with churches coming back online and back in the actual buildings, if I could come around and just give updates and talk, that would be awesome. The other need is for food and clothing. Especially during COVID. I don't know if you guys have followed the news, but the the food banks are really being stretched right now because so many people are needing food, and we are wanting to set up a timely food and clothing collection twice a year that will supplement some of the statewide programs that we're doing. And we have been very successful. Again, I'll give you an example. The Eagle River Church did a food drive and sent that food to Sellewick. And, it was so providential. What happened?
Fire. Like 2 days later, a massive fire.
In the grocery store, the small grocery store. So their whole groceries were wiped out. And it was the food that was sent from the Eagle River Church that sustained many of those individuals throughout the time that they were able to get food back in there. We talked about this before. Oh, let me just say, it would be really cool if we could get church families, pathfinders, and schools to come together during those initiatives so that we could have a network that we could create, not just locally, but around the state for food and clothing. Now, when I talk about clothing, I'm talking about new or very gently used. So let's talk about that as far as an email. If you're interested in that and putting something together, we're working with 2 individuals who are going to be heading that up. And so we'll have more on how that will work.
So can I say something about that? Sure. At our elders meeting, Jose Cortez mentioned about love and compassion and meeting people and feeling those community needs. And we can't evangelize people. We can't share God's word if we are not demonstrating it. And so what you're saying about the clothing and the timeliness of the donation from the Eagle River Church in regards to our Sellewick workers was providential. So I think that it really goes in line with, if we're going to reach the people of Alaska, we need to make sure we're meeting the needs that they have in their communities.
Oh, and that is evangelizing. It was the Christ method, wasn't it?
It is the Christ method.
It's meeting people where they are, and then showing how Christ lives through us, right? Notes, care packages to our AMA workers. Again, they struggle and they're lonely, and it takes just a phone call or just a text saying, you know what, I'm praying for you. That goes a long way. And finally, prayer for not only our AMA workers, for the villages and the support and the growth of AMA into new territories. We have opportunities that we're working on that would spread AMA out. Again, we have to balance it with the funding that we have coming in, but we have really, really grand ideas and opportunities. And I know God is working. I mean, what were you telling me? How you've seen AMA grow?
Right. Well, I've been here since 2005, and I've seen the ups and downs of AMA, and we keep getting started and sputtering out. But over the last 3 or 4 years, just the steady financial support, the quality of our workers, our pastors that are out serving those communities. We now have a pastor in Gamble of Alaska Native heritage that's on board.
Yeah.
And these are things that I have not witnessed on a continual growth basis in Arctic missions.
So we're so excited, and we are anxious to see what God does in these next 4 years. But the most important part of this is that whatever you do, whenever you do it, it is so key that you will report back to us what you've done, because again, it's about impact. It's about sharing with our supporters what you've done in the form of a small summary, a short story, pictures, video. All of that is so key to continuing to keep AMA, and not just AMA. It's whatever we do in the conference in the forefront of our supporters.
So, do you guys have any questions about Arctic missions and general about communications?
Yes.
Oh, yes, we have questions.
We have questions and
Okay.
comments. Ooh.
So Catherine Wheaton says that AGA usually does a mission trip to one of the villages every other year, but Jason McLinn says that it would be great if AMA could create a focused project for schools to engage.
Oh, there you go.
That's a good idea.
Jim John asks, what is the process for a church in Alaska to organize a mission trip to an Arctic mission location under the current climate?
Right. So obviously with COVID, almost all of our villages are inaccessible. Thank you. And so right now, I believe Tobin, this is a question for Tobin, but I believe that we're looking at 2022 for village opportunities, mission opportunities into the smaller communities. Now we are on a very limited basis saying, okay, if there is a group that wants to go out and one of our hub villages are open, then can we make something happen there? And it's really a case-by-case basis. I mean, I think Alaska, did I hear a statistic where Alaska is ahead of the entire US in terms of vaccinations? Now, whether you're for or against, that really helps us move forward in opening up and being able to say, okay, can we make things happen? So I would urge you to communicate with Tobin. He's the director of AMA, and he has the beat on the pulse of what's going on in the villages. But I would love it if we could have, if churches are adopting the villages, local Alaska churches are adopting villages, and they can make a trek out to their village once a year, or even twice a year once COVID gets behind us. And that would be very cool. There's certainly enough need for that. There was another question that I was going to address. I think that was a Jim John's question.
That was the one, yeah, but there are more.
There are more.
Okay.
How about?
And should we repeat the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we have a call for prayer for John Goody in here.
Correct.
Talk a little bit about that.
You bet. So for those of you who don't know, John Goody is half of our AMA worker team in Togiak, and he suffered a stroke. I think it's been now 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, and he's here in Anchorage. And I do ask that you will keep him and Lynette in your prayers. Let's just say it could have been worse, but there are challenges ahead. And I just got a text from Lynette, and he's in the process of switching over from the ICU to rehab, and so that's good. And again, it could have been worse. It could have been a lot worse, but they do need your prayers. We need to pray too that God will heal him, and that God, if it's in his wisdom, will keep them in Togiak, because trying to rehab in a place like Togiak is really challenging. So I know that you guys will do that, and I thank you for that.
And Lynette is in Togiak, and John is here in South Central, and so they even have that complication as well.
Really stressful, because she couldn't see him, and so she came out with him for a week, and the whole time she was not able to see him, and only until they started talking about living wills did they let her in to talk. So
we have a question from Jason McLean about whether or not AMA has any plans for a monthly program or a monthly podcast that they could show at the schools.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
That's a really good idea.
With our new studio, yes, we will. No. Oh, sorry, committing her.
It's just, it's, okay, so we're talking about having a podcast. Oh, did you say weekly or monthly?
Monthly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that. I love the idea, and I think there's a lot of merit, and that is something that we've talked about. I just honestly, it's not something that I've ever done before. I would be open if anybody has experience to this and has suggested topics, particularly for schools. I love that idea. Let's talk about that. Contact me, because it's something that I'm aware of. It's something that I think is a good idea. I'm just not sure how to structure it. And so maybe, Brenda and some of the school employees and teachers and I can get together and kind of work out, topics and a schedule, because I think that's great.
Right. And that I think a podcast would probably be a easier thing to do because of the video capability, that they have the limitations in our smaller communities. So a podcast might be good idea, Jason.
You don't want to always hear from me. And I think it's imperative to get, the voices of our Native communities out there. So that is a great idea.
Yeah. We have a question from Ryan Rogers about a centralized location for being able to contact or get the contact information of the AMA workers, so
you bet
other people can show them support.
Great. So Ryan, that's a really good point. So getting the contact information for AMA workers out to you guys, I will make sure that happens by the end of the week. So I'm on record. Anything else before we turn this over to Brenda?
Yeah. Well, I want to just expand upon what you mentioned about in terms of support for AMA, about spreading the word. It's not just about AMA. It's about all of our ministries across the state. And I know that our churches and our schools are doing ministry. I'm just not hearing about it until after the fact. So, for instance, Golden Heart Christian School did a food drive this past fall. They did a local collaboration with their police department that was the closest station to them, and they helped raise food. I was able to talk with the food bank there and Fairbanks, and so our churches are doing outreach to their communities, and the Adventist name is getting out there in a positive representation, and they're not the only ones. So I invite you to share that information with me. If you're doing electronic bulletins, emails, put me on the distribution list. So I see an idea, maybe I'll be contacting you. Don't delete my email, and we get that ministry information out to our other churches and members.
And let me just make a point here. What you may or may not realize is that Brenda and I are getting contacted almost every week asking for stories that are coming out of Alaska, not just for AMA. We're talking about you were contacted by Jay to see what our churches are doing in the community.
Oh, right. And we shared the VHF stories that they were doing in the villages. And I had that story because I really wasn't aware of any other innovation type things that they're doing for COVID. So I know you guys are doing it. Just let us know.
And Alaska is on everyone's radar. I don't know if it's reality TV. I don't know what it is, but people love and are intrigued with the last frontier. I mean, and we having a huge opportunity to be what?
The hands and feet of Jesus?
Well, yeah, that.
Well, okay. What's the other one? No, I don't know.
The other What did Kevin add?
Oh, the biggest little conference in the North American division.
right.
So that's what
That's
we're
right.
striving for,
Mhm.
and all the quality that we're putting out.
Yeah.
We have a little
And
ways
be
to
the
go,
hands
but
and
we're
feet
getting
of
there.
Jesus.
If you are going to share a story with us, please send us high resolution pictures. That's a challenge that I have. So I just wanted to tag that on as well.
Mhm.
I'm going to be talking about 3 things in regards to communication. And the first is the Alieskin. Again, we have that redesign, and we have a plan for the next 4 years to align what we're putting in the Alieskin with our Seize the Day, our discipleship, AMA, and youth and young adult ministries. But one feature I would really like to incorporate is that of a guest author. And so in the Alieskin that will be reaching homes here in the next week or 2, you'll see an article from Pastor Ryan Rogers. And so I would really encourage teachers, pastors, if you have a idea, something that is on your heart that you'd like to share, please provide that information. You'll have the topics, you'll have kind of an outline of what we're shooting for. Our next edition will be on evangelizing our communities. And Pastor Jose Cortez gave me that inspiration. And so in that, I wrote the whole outline as part of the elders meetings because I was so inspired. So anyway, so I will be contacting you not only for the Alieskin, but for the Gleaner. And I'm a firm believer, and I've witnessed this, that the churches and the schools that actually promote what they're doing have a realization in increased enrollment and church growth. So consider that when you're like, I just don't have the time. You don't have to give us the full article. Give us an idea. We can respond with questions. We have people, I would say not me, but we have people that will help build those stories. And so, yeah, just don't be intimidated by that. And the other thing I wanted to say was that I help with all ministries here in the office. So if it's discipleship, I help with that. Arctic missions, communications is kind of behind the scenes. And I do support across there. If you've got something in your church or in your school that you need help with, that you think the conference could enhance or lend support to, please let me know. Contact me. I'll be willing to give it a shot. And if I can't do it, I can't do it. So back to promoting what we're doing in the ministerial, promoting how we're outreaching to our communities. Does that have effect on fundraising?
Absolutely. So promoting is a really rough term that we use in church. Okay, that's sort of a secular term, but basically we're building awareness. And when we build awareness about our school, our church, it affects our outcome. And if you're looking at a fundraising outcome, storytelling is so hugely important because it's giving back to that supporter. It's validating why they are giving. If they have been a faithful supporter, they are showing and seeing, they're being shown, and they're seeing that their commitment to, say, your school or your church, AMA, is not just some abstract idea. It's actually helping people. And you're telling that story of impact when you provide instances of how their money has been used. So you've got that part of it. If you have a new donor, your new donor is going to, if you have a website that doesn't have any stories or impact on it, do you want to give to that? I don't, so it builds credibility. It builds credibility in terms of your position in the community. And the third thing it does is if you're looking for fundraising outside of, say, the church, you're looking at a community foundation, you're looking for grants, that granting agency is going to look at your impact. It's going to look at how active you are in the community as a part of the decision-making process. So it's hugely important.
So to what Tandi's saying, I want to kind of switch a little bit to what is your presence on the internet. When somebody Googles, Anchorage Northside or Hillside O'Malley or North Pole, what do they see? every church out there has a website. North American Division through Adventist Church Connect and Adventist School Connect has created a website for you. And if you have not actively taken that website and personalized it, it is a very, for lack of a better word, canned look. Brian Ford this morning talked about eAdventist, and eAdventist fills those websites with the data that's on their site. So it's transmitted. It also fills data for schools. And so I would encourage all of you to look at what you are, how your church is portrayed, how your school is portrayed when someone's looking, because a potential student family, a potential visitor, you know, if there's not active current information on there, they may not decide to go and visit your church or see that school as an educational opportunity. So I personally use Google for everything. I Google it. I don't typically go to social media. I know some of our organizations do have social media pages, and that's a great addition to your internet presence, but the website is really a key. And like Tandi says, it gives us validity and it ties us into a larger organization. It gives us credibility, for lack of a better word. So I really encourage you to do that. It's website for dummies, people. If I can do it, anybody can do it. But I would be happy to help you get access to it. If you have questions on platform, how to post, those type of things. And they have a great library. You can find out almost how to do anything, and they offer monthly webinars as well. So it's really a really nice service, and it doesn't cost you anything. So what do you have to lose? The other thing that I wanted to speak about is social media. That has really been on my mind lately, is social media. And
because it's been really lucrative.
It's been really, in my mind, negative. So interesting enough, I found out that there is actually a North Pacific Union Conference social media policy, which I'm going to share with you guys.
I had no idea.
I had no idea either, but I will be sending the official policy to you guys here after the meeting. But I just want to share with you the highlights of what the policy says. So basically, as employees of the North Pacific Union Conference, we are expected to conduct ourselves in a manner in which enhances not only your personal ministry, but the Adventist organization as a whole, and more importantly, us as Christians. And so when you're posting, even if it's to your personal page, you have to keep that in mind, and that it is a reflection not only on you personally, but for the organization that you're associated with. And remember, your posts are permanent. And I'm the worst person, because I'll post and I'll see a typo and I go in there and edit it. I think one I had to do 3 or 4 times because I'm the typo queen in communications. That's kind of ironic. Yeah, it is permanent. Someone screenshot it, especially if it's negative, and it's not going away. So just think before you hit that post button. If what you're posting is lifting someone up, is enhancing what you have chosen to do as a profession. The NPUC does routinely monitor our social media pages. So that was something that I was not aware of. You know, it's one of those necessary evils in today's climate. So just be aware of that. Needless to say, confidential information, proprietary information should not be posted on any platform. If it's not public knowledge, it's not supposed to be put out there. And then last, I call it the golden rule. This is not in their policy, but, you know, treat people how you would like to be treated. You can engage in conversation, you can disagree, but it should be in a respectful manner. It should be in a compassionate manner. Don't argue, don't ridicule, because we're trying to draw people to Christ. And if we take that demeanor, we are definitely not moving in that direction.
And unfortunately, we all know someone that is in the church that really has been a challenge. I mean, I've had to snooze some of my friends. I mean, I hate to say that, but it's too much.
It's too much. So That is our piece on communications. Do we have more questions?
Okay. I did want to circle back, keep, submit your questions for sure, but I did want to circle back to the fact that I had indicated that, fundraising for AMA specifically. I mean, I understand, and I have gotten requests from some schools and churches to talk about fundraising for their specific campaign, or to give my advice. And I absolutely am here to help. I understand the challenges of trying to raise money in this environment. So what I am going to be doing is I'm working with Brenda to set up a fundraising resource page on the conference website. Okay. And it's basically going to be initially excerpts out of this successful fundraising, best practices for successful fundraising book. And this is a book that has been developed by Dr. Lilia Wagner, and it is specifically for schools and churches. And I think it does a good job at just giving people the overview of certain topics. And I'll give you an example. Making a case, preparing for fundraising requests, finding donors, understanding who might and will give, the annual fund, planning for fundraising, raising funds for special projects. So I'm going to be taking chapters out of this and posting them on this page. And if you have any questions, or if you're looking for additional resources, I'll be building that out, but it will take me some time. So just wanted to let you know that I'm not forgetting the other parts of this. And so be looking out for that. Any other questions? Any other comments? Thank you so much for your time. And shall we do prayer, or how do you want to close this out?
Brenda? I think prayer is a good way to close it out.
Okay, let's do it. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for the opportunity to come and to dialogue and interact with our teacher and pastor brothers and sisters, and I pray that you will bless them. They have such a tough job ahead of them. They're having to really scramble to do things out of the box, and I just ask that you will bless them with wisdom and discernment as they go and make decisions for their organization, their institutions, and for their people. Keep them all safe. Keep them looking to you as the author and the finisher of this world. And may we see you coming soon. In thy name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Thank you.